1967, two Mercedes-Benz engineers walked into a meeting with their employer's management with a proposal to build a performance engine that could outrace purpose-built competition cars using a production Mercedes as the foundation. Mercedes-Benz said no, too expensive, not relevant to the company's commercial priorities at the time. And the two engineers, Hans Werner Aufrecht and Erhard Melcher, left that meeting and made a decision that would eventually cost Mercedes-Benz approximately 400 million euros. They left the company, rented an old mill building in a small town called Affalterbach outside Stuttgart, set up a workshop with their own money, and began building the engine that Mercedes had told them not to build. With no factory, no corporate budget, no backing from any automotive conglomerate, and the specific obsession that the description of this video captures better than anything I can add, built something that could outrace purpose-built race cars. 4 years later, at the 24 Hours of Spa-Francorchamps in 1971. The Mercedes 300 SEL 6.3 that Aufrecht and Melcher had modified in their Affalterbach mill finished second overall against purpose-built racing machines from manufacturers with engineering departments and racing budgets of a completely different scale. And the automotive world paid attention in a way that no racing result had commanded since the silver arrows of the 1930s. And the company those two engineers built in a rented mill after Mercedes said no, named AMG from the first letters of Aufrecht's name, Melcher's name, and Grossesbach, the town in Baden-Württemberg where Aufrecht was born, would eventually be bought back by Mercedes-Benz for a sum that most estimates place at approximately 400 to 500 million euros. And today I am going to decode every economic step of the journey from the Affalterbach mill to the most profitable division of one of the world's most successful automotive companies, the independent years that prove the concept. Here is the economic period between 1967 and the late 1990s, when AMG operated as an independent performance engineering company in exactly the same way that BRABUS operates today, buying standard Mercedes vehicles at dealer prices, modifying them to performance specifications that Mercedes would not approve from its own engineering departments, and selling them to customers who wanted more than Mercedes would give them. The economics of the independent AMG era were built around the same fundamentals that drive BRABUS today. The markup between the cost of the base vehicle plus the modification work and the selling price to the customer was the margin that funded the company. And the reputation that the Spa result had created, along with subsequent racing successes in touring car competition, gave AMG the credibility to charge premiums that a company without that track record could not have justified. And the business that Aufrecht and Melcher built during those 30 years, as an independent operation with no parent company, no acquisition by any conglomerate, and no official relationship with Mercedes beyond the customer-dealer transaction that provided the raw material, was the proof of concept that eventually convinced Mercedes-Benz that what they had rejected in 1967 was worth buying at almost any price in 1999. The acquisition economics that changed everything. Here's the transaction that transformed AMG from the world's most respected independent automotive tuner into the official performance division of one of the world's most valuable automotive brands. In 1999, Mercedes-Benz acquired a 51% controlling stake in AMG GmbH, and in 2005 acquired the remaining 49% to take full ownership, the combined acquisition price, which Mercedes has not officially disclosed, but which industry analysts estimate at approximately 400 to 500 million euros, represented the automotive industry's most expensive acknowledgement of a mistake. The company that had told two engineers that their performance engine program was not relevant to the business, paid approximately €500 million 30 years later to own what those engineers had built from that rejection. And Hans Werner Aufrecht, who had retained a significant ownership stake throughout the independent years, received a return that turned a rented mill and an obsession into generational wealth. The strategic rationale for Mercedes' acquisition was equally clear from the buyer's perspective. AMG had built something that Mercedes' own engineering organization, constrained by corporate cost management, regulatory compliance priorities, and the risk aversion of a publicly listed company, could never have built internally. The AMG brand had an emotional resonance with performance car buyers that no amount of Mercedes' internal marketing spending could replicate, because it was authentic, earned on racetracks by two men who had been told not to bother. The one-man, one-engine philosophy that creates a premium. Here's the manufacturing philosophy that AMG brought to the Mercedes ecosystem. and that has been maintained since the acquisition as the primary justification for the price premium that AMG commands over standard Mercedes models. Every AMG performance engine, from the legendary naturally aspirated 6.2-liter V8 that powered the original C63 and E63 AMG models, to the current 4.0-liter twin-turbocharged V8 that powers the E63S and the GT Black Series, is assembled by a single technician, from beginning to end, by hand, in Affalterbach, and that technician signs their name on a plaque that is affixed to the completed engine before it is installed in the vehicle. In an automotive industry where the overwhelming majority of engines are assembled by automated production lines that can build thousands of units per day, the AMG practice of one technician building one complete engine, a process that takes approximately 3 to 4 days per unit, at a pace of approximately 3 to 4 engines per week per technician, is the most inefficient manufacturing practice in the mainstream automotive industry. And it is maintained precisely because that inefficiency is the product. The story that a single human being assembled this engine with their hands is worth approximately 30 to 50% of the price premium that AMG commands over equivalent standard Mercedes models. And it is worth more than that in the emotional justification that AMG customers apply to the purchase decision, the revenue contribution that justifies everything. Here's where the AMG economics become most significant for understanding the Mercedes-Benz Group as a financial enterprise. AMG models represent approximately 15 to 20% of total Mercedes-Benz sales volume, but they contribute approximately 25 to 35% of total Mercedes-Benz profit. The reason for this disproportionate profit contribution is the margin premium on AMG versus standard models. A standard Mercedes E-Class priced at approximately $57,000 generates a gross margin of approximately 8 to 12%. An AMG E63S priced at approximately $115,000. For a vehicle that shares significant platform and manufacturing infrastructure with the standard E-Class, generates a gross margin of approximately 20 to 25%. The additional margin is generated by the AMG premium, the hand-built engine, the performance engineering, the track-proven heritage, and the emotional premium that the AMG badge carries for the segment of Mercedes buyers who want more than the factory standard, which is a segment that has grown consistently larger as AMG's global recognition has expanded through Formula One association, social media presence, and the cultural resonance of performance car culture across every demographic Mercedes serves, the F1 connection that multiplied everything. Here's the economic amplifier that has taken AMG from a respected performance division to a globally recognized automotive culture icon. The Mercedes-AMG Petronas Formula One team, the most successful constructor in the hybrid era of Formula One, which won 8 consecutive Constructors' Championships between 2014 and 2021. Races under the Mercedes-AMG brand, and the economic consequence of that association, of having AMG as the visible identity of the most successful team in the most globally watched motorsport, has been a brand recognition amplification that no conventional advertising spending could have achieved. Every Lewis Hamilton World Championship was simultaneously a Lewis Hamilton AMG World Championship, and the 601 people who liked the original video that prompted this analysis represent a fraction of the millions of people globally who associate AMG with a dominant force in the world's premier motorsport series, and who make a MG badge vehicle purchasing decisions partly because that association makes them feel connected to something larger than a car purchase. The EV transition problem that threatens the identity. Here's the economic challenge that AMG faces in 2026 that no amount of F1 success or one-man, one-engine mythology can fully address. The global regulatory and market shift toward electric vehicles is fundamentally incompatible with the product identity that AMG has built over 59 years. AMG's emotional proposition is built on sensory experience. The specific sound of a V8 engine under hard acceleration, the vibration that communicates mechanical intensity, the tactile connection between throttle input and engine response that defines what an AMG drive feels like and why people pay 100% premiums for it. Electric vehicles deliver an entirely different emotional proposition. Instant torque, silence, smoothness, and the absence of precisely the sensory elements that AMG customers have historically paid to experience. The AMG EQ models. Electric performance vehicles developed to maintain AMG's presence as Mercedes electrifies its lineup have generated a buyer response that most honest AMG observers describe as mixed at best. because the performance metrics are impressive. The 0 to 60 times are astonishing, and the technology is sophisticated. But the buyers who choose AMG over standard Mercedes for the sound and the emotion do not find those things in an electric powertrain regardless of how sophisticated it is. And the economic question that AMG's management must answer in the next 5 years is how to maintain a 59-year brand identity built around internal combustion performance in a regulatory and market environment that is progressively restricting the product that built that identity. Jake stands next to an AMG E63S in a parking structure, and before he sees it, he hears it. That specific sound that the description of this video captured perfectly. The growl before the car is even in view, and he understands for the first time that what he is hearing is not just a car engine. It is the sound of two men who were told no, who built an answer in a rented mill, whose answer became worth 400 million euros to the people who had said no, and whose answer has been making that specific sound at full throttle on racetracks and public roads for 59 years. And counting, you have been decoded. If this video made you hear the AMG sound differently the next time it finds you before the car is in view, subscribe to Money Decoder 3004. Every single week, we decode the economics of the brands and companies that most people experience as sound and sensation. And most people never fully understand its business. Simply, honestly, and clearly, drop a comment below. Do you think AMG can survive the electric transition? Or is the AMG identity fundamentally incompatible with an EV future? Tell me below. I read every single comment, and I will see you in the next decode.